Hey everybody, Economic Ninja here. I hope you're doing great. Got a great story out of Seeking Alpha. It's about the Federal Reserve. It's about the interest rate hike, or what everybody's expecting, and that's expecting to pause. And a lot of people are hoping that the Fed starts to lower its rates, but I have a feeling that is not going to be the case. Check this out. The Fed may shatter the rate cut fantasy this week is the title of the story. It says here, the Fed may pass on raising rates this week, but that doesn't mean that they're done. Given the stronger than expected economic growth witnessed over the last few months, it seems more likely than not that the Fed will signal through its summary of economic predictions that yet another rate hike may be needed while removing rate cuts for 2024. This is very, very important. We are losing the battle to inflation. When I say we, well, it's not we, it's the Federal Reserve. Says this is crucial for the Fed, especially when asset price inflation has skyrocketed at core inflation metrics core inflation metrics stay elevated. On top of that, commodities like oil and gasoline are again on the rise, and that effect can ripple through the economy. This has already resulted in rates on the back of the yield curve and market-based inflation expectations. Additionally, it says, it puts the Fed in a tough spot because if the market views the Fed as not being aggressive enough against sticky inflation, type 1 if you think this is sticky inflation, or type 2 if you think this is full-blown inflation and we're headed towards hyperinflation. I want to hear what you have to think, what you think about this. It says yields on the back of the curve could rise even further while inflation expectations rise. And we all know what happens next after that. Panic into hyperinflation. It says this is why the Fed will need to communicate to the market that they remain data dependent. And what does the data say? Is getting more expensive. So you have to realize that as the Fed gets smacked in the face with higher prices for a barrel of oil, higher gasoline futures, higher food costs, along with a myriad of other things, they have to try and tamp that down and stop you as a consumer from spending. How do they do that? They ratchet higher the interest rates, which ultimately lead to massive job losses and then deflation. But that's the problem. How much more can they do before they break the system? That's this whole talk about the smooth landing as opposed to the hard landing. Here's another question, another poll. Type 4 if you believe we're going to have a hard landing. Type 5 if you believe that we're going to have that smooth transition that everybody so badly or desperately wants to see. I believe it's going to be the earlier. It's going to be 4. We're going to have a hard landing. As a matter of fact, we're going to smack right into the mountain. It says here, the June ESP revealed a peak Fed funds terminal rate of 5.6% in 2023, which is then expected to come down to 4.6% in 2024, 3.4% in 2025, and a long run rate of 2.5%. Interesting, isn't it? Even the SEP is stating that the Fed's lost control in a manner that even 3 years from now, we're not going to be at the 2% Federal Reserve inflation mandate. You know, again, they want to destroy, at minimum, your savings, your money that you bring in at a rate of 2%. All right, but even that is showing that this time is different, and I completely agree. It says here, while the long run rate stayed at 2.5% after the June meeting, its central tendency shifted from 2.4% to 2.6%. It shifted from that, from 2.4 to 2.6% to 2.5 to 2.8%. See, even the economists that are trying to gauge where this is going are consistently wrong. And that is going to be the theme of 2024. All of the economists were wrong. Now, that is the truth. And if you don't like it, well, that's okay. I'm sure there's a rock you can hide under. But if you want to take advantage, you need to take advantage. You need to take action now. Save money, get into inflation hedges. Don't get into any more debt. This is not the time to be spending money wildly. It says here, the market may already be one step ahead of the Fed because currently the market sees real rates at roughly 2% across the entire yield out to 30 years. The bond market is in a complete shambles right now. This is really getting exciting. Compared to where the market saw rates back in September of 2018, when the market saw a neutral rate closer to around 0.75%. In September of 2018, the Fed's long-run rate was 3%, with a 2% inflation rate projecting a 1% real yield. The bond market seems to be saying today that the Fed's idea of the long run is too low, and that would suggest that one should pay particular attention to any changes in the long-run interest rate. If you haven't seen what's going on in the 2-year bond over the last 24 hours, you need to go and check out the charts. It is absolutely astounding. The market is in turmoil, and the Fed is, at this point, I believe, playing catch up to what the bond market is stating real inflation is at, what real yields need to be at to get more of a semblance of being able to keep up with those yields with real inflation. But we all understand, and hopefully you do. Type 10 if you believe that we're already well into double-digit inflation, and the Federal Reserve is completely, and the government is lying to you about the real rate of inflation here. This is noted, it says, by the earnings yield moving lower while real yields are moving higher. This would suggest that the equity market still doesn't believe the Fed when it says that rates will have to stay restrictive for some time. What is interesting at this point is that the bond market is almost in complete agreement with the Fed regarding the path of rates, with a peak policy rate of 5.45% while seeing rates falling to around 4.6% by the end of 2024, which is what the SEP was forecasting back in June. But the question becomes more about that long run rate, because a 2% inflation rate and a 2% real yield would suggest that the nominal rates stay above 4% over a very long period. Remember, Jerome Powell said, you are about to feel pain 2 years ago when they started this cycle of raising rates to get on control of inflation that they said was not their fault, but that is absolutely a lie. It says here, this would suggest that the Fed cutting rates to 4.6% in 2024 is probably not likely, and that will result in that 2024 estimate rising, and it probably indicates that the 2025 estimate of 3.4% is way too low and will need to rise above 4% as well. The fact of the matter is, things aren't gonna get fixed until the system breaks. The Fed knows this. They're trying to do it slowly and methodically, but I believe that there is about to be an unhinging point that comes this fall into the winter, and you're gonna see it spectacularly. I hope you got something out of this. The $250 discount links to the real estate crash course will be gone. There's a few of them put out today. They will be gone by the end of the week. It'll never be that cheap again. And get ready, because there are gonna be some fireworks flying. With that being said, the Economic Ninja wasn't supposed to hit the